Straight ahead on Falcon Weekly, down to the wire, candidates are hitting the campaign trail for one final push before Tuesday's midterm elections. We'll take a look at how the balance of power may shift in Washington, D.C. Also, this local teen robbed 4 Subway restaurants. Hear why he says he had a right to do it. And could your dog help you lose weight? See which breeds may actually help you get healthier. Falcon Weekly starts now. Hello and welcome to Falcon Weekly. I'm Kayla Guillo. Thanks so much for joining us. The clock is ticking as candidates across the country are making a final push before Tuesday's midterm elections. The big question, who will have control of the Senate when the dust settles? Ryan Nobles takes a look at the latest poll numbers.
From Florida to New Hampshire, politicians are spending the last day of this campaign season trying to drum up some excitement. According to the latest polls, the GOP has all the momentum, but some big-name Democrats disagree.
First of all, I don't agree with the odds makers. I predict we're gonna keep the Senate.
I do think the Democrats will retain the majority.
Republicans are on track to take over Senate seats in South Dakota, Montana, and West Virginia, which would leave them just 3 seats short of a majority. In the key battleground state of Iowa, the GOP is pulling ahead.
So it's not just our Republicans, it's independents, and it's a lot of Democrats, too, that see the need to change direction.
Some analysts say the president's low approval ratings are giving the Republicans momentum.
I think in all likelihood, yes. I think the winds at our back. I think this election is going to be a referendum on the president. Even he acknowledged his policies will be on the ballot.
No matter the outcome, Vice President Biden says the focus remains the same.
Well, I don't think it'll change anything in terms of what we're about. We know what we have to get done the last 2 years, and quite frankly, going into 2016, the Republicans have to make a decision whether they're in control or not in control. Are they going to begin to allow things to happen?
In Washington, I'm Ryan Nobles.
Vice President Joe Biden had been speculated to run in the 2016 elections, but he has not officially announced his decision. Alabama voters will head to the polls to vote for several offices and amendments. We've placed a full list on our Facebook page. Just search for Falcon Weekly. Remember, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. A woman who has become the face of the Death with Dignity movement has died. Last spring, doctors diagnosed 29-year-old Brittany Maynard with brain cancer, and they gave her 6 months to live. So she decided to die on her own terms. Maynard and her family moved from California to Oregon to take part in the state's Death with Dignity Act. Under this law, terminally ill patients can receive fatal doses of medicine to end their lives. According to a post on her website, Maynard passed away Saturday night surrounded by close family and loved ones. It could take up to a year to determine why the Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2 disintegrated during a test flight. Friday's accident killed one pilot and injured another. The NTSB says preliminary reports indicate a lever on the test spacecraft was moved earlier than it should have, but that should not have caused the accident. Investigators were able to find almost all of the parts of the spacecraft they need to find out what exactly went wrong. In California, 5 people have been arrested after a car struck and killed 3 trick-or-treaters on Halloween night in Santa Ana. Police say the girls, who were all 13 years old, had the right-of-way at a crosswalk when a car hit them and sped off. CNN affiliate KABC said that all the girls were declared dead at the scene. A fund set up to pay for the girls' funerals has already raised more than $37,000. Police have not released the names of the 5 people arrested in connection with the hit and run. An early blast of winter weather blanketed much of the south and northeast with snow over the weekend. This was the scene in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Saturday. The early winter weather forced the National Park Service to shut down roads and close some campsites. Wintry weather stretched all the way to Maine, resulting in double-digit snowfall and a virtual whiteout. The National Weather Service says this is the first time Maine has seen so much snow this early in November. Heavy snow and 40-mile-per-hour winds brought down tree limbs and power lines, which knocked out power to 130,000 people as of Sunday evening. The state governor has declared this as a state of emergency. In New York, One World Trade Center is now open for business. Construction on the 1,700-foot office tower was completed earlier this year. The New York Times reports about 175 employees of magazine publisher Condé Nast reported for their first time Monday morning. More than 3,000 other employees will move in later. Monday's soft opening will be followed by a formal ceremony later this year. One World Trade Center replaces the original World Trade Center towers destroyed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks. In news from across Alabama, after a failed diet attempt, a local teenager decided to take revenge on Subway. 18-year-old Zachary Torrance has been arrested for robbing 4 Subway restaurants in 4 days. His reason for doing so was because of revenge. According to police, Torrance was upset because he went on Subway's Jared diet but didn't get the results he wanted. Police say that's when he robbed 4 Subway restaurants. Torrance told officials that he felt like he should get his money back. The man suspected in the 2005 disappearance of Mountain Brook teen Natalie Holloway has been reported seriously injured after being stabbed in a Peruvian prison. Johan Vandersloot's wife claimed he was stabbed multiple times in the shoulder and waist. However, officials are refuting her claim and calling her a compulsive liar. Vandersloot is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence after killing a Peruvian woman in 2010. Turning now to campus news, registration for spring 2015 courses opens this week. Registration for graduating seniors is already open. Seniors and those with priority registration will be able to register Wednesday, November 5th. Registration for juniors starts this Friday, and sophomores will be able to register next Tuesday and the 11th, and freshmen will register on November 13th. Registration opens at 7 a.m. on those days. The National Broadcasting Society hosted its second annual bake sale Monday. NBS members set up their delicious treats in the Mass Communication Building. Customers got to choose from homemade Rice Krispie treats and cookies to cupcakes. All proceeds from the bake sale goes toward funding for students to travel to the National NBS Convention in Atlanta next March. Here's a look at what else is happening on campus this week. Tuesday, the UPC will be hosting karaoke night in Farmer Hall. The event will begin at 7 p.m. Then on Wednesday, Spectrum will host a bake sale from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the Farmer patio. Thursday, get ready for a night of coffee and good music. Java and Jazz will be held at the Student Retreat Center. The UM Jazz Ensemble and selected student vocalists will perform. Admission is $3. And you can get your Saturday off to a colorful start. The Chi Omega sorority will host the Color Me Chi O Color Run. The 5K race will take place at the SAC at 8 a.m. Remember, there's more news online 24/7. Just search for UM Falcon Weekly on Facebook and Twitter to see more stories and news updates throughout the week. Coming up, MPG controversy. 2 major car manufacturers have now settled with the U.S. government after they were caught for inflating cars' estimated gas mileage. See how much they will have to pay and how the government is making sure it won't happen again. Also, AT&T and Verizon customers will see an increase in data soon. Find out which plans are affected. Those stories and more when Falcon Weekly returns. Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. Lucas Burns joins us now for a look at the latest in consumer news. Hi, Lucas.
Hi, Kayla. Here's a look at this week's consumer headlines. The federal government has announced a settlement in the case of 2 major car companies breaching the Clean Air Act, and it looks like it will cost the automakers. The U.S. Department of Justice and the EPA announced a settlement with the automakers over the inflation of fuel economy ratings. According to the federal government, about 1.2 million vehicles were sold with incorrect fuel ratings, which saved Kia and Hyundai more than $200 million in greenhouse gas emission credits. Both companies will pay over $100 million in fines, but that's not their only penalty. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder is ensuring that this won't happen again.
And finally, Hyundai and Kia will be required to implement rigorous new procedures, including training and enhanced audit testing of their vehicles.
The vehicles involved were the Hyundai Accent, Elantra, Veloster, and Santa Fe, along with Kia Rio and Soul. A new study shows more people who rent their homes are finding themselves without a place to live. A study from the University of Wisconsin School of Law estimates that more tenants are being evicted from their homes than ever before. Several million families are being evicted weekly due to both late rent payments and minor lease violations. According to a study, a contributing factor could be rising rent prices and landlords who are eager to convert low-income houses into more profitable spaces. The rivalry between Verizon and AT&T is heating up, and luckily for the customers, they're the ones reaping the benefits. In a limited time promotion, both Verizon and AT&T are offering customers more data at the same price. Verizon's More Everything program gives new and existing Verizon customers 10 gigabytes of data for just $80 a month and 15 gigs for $100. AT&T is keeping up by adjusting its $40 and $70 data plans. In recent weeks, AT&T was slammed for slowing data speeds for its unlimited plan customers. And if you were looking to use some of that data over your next vacation, you're in luck. Carnival Cruise Lines has announced a faster and more stable internet connection for over 100 of its ships. Passengers previously had access to satellite-based internet, but it suffered spotty, slow connections. Carnival boasts that the new system will run at 10 times the previous speed, allowing fast video streaming and instant connection to social media. Superstar Taylor Swift really has something to sing about now. Sources say Swift's new album, 1989, is expected to sell more than 1.3 million copies during its first week. That would break 2 records for one-week album sales. If Swift pulls it off, it will be her 3rd consecutive album to sell more than 1 million copies in just the first week. Domino's pizza customers in Australia are giving their opinion about options for the pizza giant. And those suggestions could earn customers some big dough. The marketing campaign has been coined Pizza Mogul, and it starts with a brand new app. The app itself lets customers design a pizza and even market it on social media. If they sell, the customer gets a slice of the sales, anywhere from 22 cents to $3 per pizza, and it has already inspired some strange combinations. A recent submission included a pie topped with anchovies, spinach, and a chili lime drizzle. Sadly, this offer is not valid in the U.S. And that's a look at this week's consumer headlines.
Thanks, Lucas. Still ahead, one city in Alabama is doing their part in the fight against Ebola. See how volunteers are gearing up for the challenge to stop the spread of the virus. And studies have shown that having pets can decrease your stress level, but can they also make you lose weight? Find out next. We'll be right back. In our health headlines this week, preliminary tests for a patient being monitored for Ebola in North Carolina have come back negative. The State Department of Health says additional testing will be conducted just to be sure. The unidentified patient will remain isolated at Duke University Hospital. Health officials say the patient developed a fever after a trip to Liberia and arrived in the U.S. on Halloween and was then hospitalized on Sunday. Officials say the person showed no symptoms while traveling and had no known exposure to Ebola. Meanwhile, France is now treating a confirmed Ebola patient. The person, who has not been identified to the media, contracted Ebola while working for the United Nations in Sierra Leone. The World Health Organization requested France to take the patient, but it isn't known if the person is French. Officials sent the patient to an army teaching hospital near Paris, which has a high-security isolation unit. And nearly 5,000 people worldwide have died in the latest Ebola outbreak, with most of the cases being in West Africa. Now Alabama is taking on a larger role in preventing the spread of the deadly virus by training volunteers who are going to the front lines. Chris Cuomo shows us what it's like inside the Anniston training facility.
These volunteers are preparing for a daunting task. Soon they'll travel from the United States to West Africa to work on the front lines in the fight against Ebola.
We have a mock Ebola treatment unit. We're training clinicians who are going to deploy to West Africa to treat patients there, how to protect themselves.
So that's a great technique there.
They learn skills like putting on and removing protective equipment, drawing blood, and disposing of hazardous waste.
Every detail could mean a matter of life or death to you or the people that work around you.
Dr. Folk Lee is planning to take the skills he learns on this training course in Alabama and help medical teams in Liberia improve their protocols and hopefully limit infection.
All of the infections of healthcare workers and the deaths of healthcare workers, most of them were probably preventable if they had sufficient staffing, the equipment that we have here, space, supplies.
We're teaching them how the virus is transmitted so that they know how to protect themselves, so that they feel safe taking care of patients.
The training helps, but the volunteers still face a formidable foe.
Whoever tells you that they're not anxious about going to Liberia and working in an Ebola unit is delusional. It's just a sense of solidarity and wanting to be there for our nonprofit partners who don't have a choice but to stay and work and contribute.
The Dallas nurse who recovered from Ebola got her dog back on Saturday. You can see the two here at a press conference over the weekend. Bentley, a King Charles Spaniel, had been in quarantine since his owner, Nina Pham, became sick. A city spokesperson announced Friday the dog tested negative for the virus and was clear to go home. Pham thanked those who took care of her pup while she was being treated for Ebola. She has been declared Ebola-free and went home last week. Could owning a dog actually improve your health? They can if they make you a more active person. A study in the Journal of Physical Activity and Health says that dog owners average about 160 minutes of physical activity a week. But that's just the average, and not all dogs are created equal. Holly Furfer has our story.
What kind of dog is good for you if you like to exercise? Well, Health Magazine has a list out, and there are certain dogs that are good for people who like to do certain things. So if you fashion yourself the next Steve Prefontaine, then a Vizsla or a Weimaraner is probably the dog for you. They like to run for miles on end. If getting to the mailbox is more your speed, then hang out with the Papillon. They like to sprint too. If you live by a beach or a lake, we're jealous, and an English Springer Spaniel, Poodle, or a Lab will race you to shore. If your exercise routine is really just working your upper body in the form of throwing a frisbee or a ball, we won't judge, but find friendship with an Australian Shepherd or a Border Collie. And if it's cold where you are, we're not coming to visit, but grab the sled and your Husky, they love winter sports. Golden Retrievers, Beagles, and Dalmatians like a good hike, while a Corgi likes a leisurely walk, and who can blame them with those legs? And the best dog to have by your side? A shelter dog. They're just happy to be anywhere. Oh, now you want to play too? For today's Health Minute, I'm Holly Furfer. Oh, somebody go get it. Go get it. She's like, go get the...
So which furry friend fits your workout? Tell us on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Just search for Falcon Weekly. Stick around. Coming up, Carmela Williams joins us for a look at sports.
Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. I'm Carmela Williams with a look at this week's sports. The Peach Belt Conference has announced their preseason all-conference team, and Montevallo senior Teran Brown is one of the players honored by the PBC. Brown, who is the reigning PBC Player of the Year, was also named First Team Daktronics All-Southeast Region, First Team NABC All-Southeast Region, and was an NABC All-American. The men's basketball team, currently ranked 4th in the country, has been named the preseason favorites in the Peach Belt Conference. The Falcons will open their season with an exhibition game against the University of Alabama on November 10th. Their first home game will be against Carver Bible College on November 24th at 7 p.m. Volleyball has been ranked number 7 in the first NCAA Division II Southeast Region rankings. Montevallo is one of 5 PBC teams ranked in the initial region poll. Armstrong Atlantic is the top-ranked team in the region, with GRU Augusta ranked number 4. USC Aiken takes the number 5 spot, and Lander comes in at number 8. Both the men's and women's soccer teams hit a rough patch in their schedules. The men hosted Young Harris in their regular season finale Saturday afternoon. Young Harris scored a goal late into the first half and held the lead for the remainder of the game. The Falcons lost 1-0. The women suffered a 5-1 loss to Columbus State University Wednesday night and a 2-1 loss to Young Harris on Saturday. Saturday was also senior day for the women's team, which marked the final game for 9 of the athletes who are graduating. And that's a look at this week's sports.
Thanks, Carmela. Daredevil Nick Walinda took his high-wire act to Chicago, making 2 death-defying tightrope walks Sunday as thousands of people anxiously watched from below. His first walk ended nearly 700 feet off the ground, and his second walk between 2 skyscrapers was 600 feet above the ground, but as if that wasn't enough, Walinda was blindfolded. Wind gusts reached around 30 miles per hour while he balanced on a steel wire no wider than a nickel. The walk took a total of about 8 minutes. I don't think I will be brave enough to do that.
I freak out if I climb a tree too high. I don't know how I would do that.
I can't, even at the mall when there's the railing, I'm like, I'll stay back from that. That's all the time we have for this week's show. Thanks so much for joining us. For more UM news, be sure to check out the Falcon News Network blog. The web address is on your screen. We'll see you again next week.